What is going on with this piece of art? Seriously? Ow. Hello everybody, welcome to my channel, Sam's Outlook. This is my first YouTube video. It's taken a whole pandemic to get me to make this video, but finally I've decided to sit down and actually do it. So for my first video, I've decided that we're gonna get deep. So get your armbands on, tie your hair back, get everything that you need, learn to swim if you need to, because it's gonna get deep. And we're going to talk about why I started blogging, which is to share my coming out story. Coming out stories on YouTube is what inspired me to essentially become comfortable with myself, learn from other experiences, learn from what other people have gone through to give me the confidence that I needed to see that I could essentially come out the closet one day. And now I am repaying that favor to anybody who wants to watch this, who might be going through the same thing. So hopefully you guys enjoy what I have to say and you can resonate. So without further ado, here you go. Okay. So where do I even begin with this? There's so many layers to this. So I've tried to condense it as much as I can. So the best way that I thought would be to start off from when basically I realised that I was a fully fledged so basically I realised I was gay when I was 8 years old, which for a lot of people is quite young. They get quite surprised because a lot of people realise later in life when they're teenagers. But for me, I definitely feel like I knew at 8 years old because I remember liking a boy in my class more so than I liked any of the girls. It was definitely more romantic feelings than it was friendship, which was different to what I had with girls. So I think that's definitely when I realised. But what's weird is that thinking back as an adult now, I realised that the narrative was so heteronormative from an early age that I knew not to talk about it and I knew not to mention it to anybody at all. And then it wasn't really a problem at all. Obviously, it didn't affect me anyway because I was a child. I didn't talk about it. But it was only then when I went to secondary school that I realised that, oh crap, being gay is gonna be a bit of a problem. I joke about it, but you know, there was actually quite a few serious things that happened during those years, my teenage years at secondary school, that I felt really didn't allow me to develop into the confident young man that I should have, which is what that experience is supposed to bring. It's supposed to be a safe environment for me to develop and help me excel in who I'm going to become. But it was definitely the opposite for me completely, because firstly, the first problem from the get-go was that it was an all-boys school. Okay, now for some of you listening to that and thinking, an all-boys school, Sam, don't lie to me. You were fully happy and there's a reason you went to that school because you were gay and you were probably excited. But let me tell you, it was definitely not the case. The problem with the secondary school experience was that when I got there, I soon realised that there was a word for how I felt, and that word was gay. I learned what that word meant and that it applied to me. And then I also learnt the negative connotation associated with it. It was there that I realised that being gay was a negative thing. Obviously it's not now, but at the time, that was my first ever experience of what it meant to be gay and my first learning experience of how it was represented in society and how it was tolerated within society. Because they used the word gay in such a negative way for so many stupid things. They forgot their homework and they got in trouble. Oh, that's so gay, I got in trouble. Oh, if somebody was annoying you, I'll stop being so gay, right? And I quickly learned that that wasn't something that I wanted to be associated with. Also, with it being an all-boys school, there was so much expectation of boys to be a certain way. And obviously that's a whole problem within itself of the whole toxic masculinity and hyper-masculine environment that we create for boys to make them think that they should be this particular type of person, of which being gay isn't a part of that. So that was another problem within itself and made me feel like, oh, okay, so therefore being gay is to be ridiculed, and also being gay meant that it took away my ability to be a man and my masculinity and my ability to assimilate into a wider community at school. So that really hurt me and that really cut deep. I then basically quickly learned that every day at school from then on was going to be and was an acting experience. I essentially went to school every day, 5 days a week, right? Throughout those 7 years that I was there, pretending to be somebody that I wasn't and actively lying and engaging in homophobia to prevent people from realizing that I was gay so that I could protect myself from any negativity that could have possibly come my way. When you're acting and pretending to be somebody else every day and you're learning that a part of you that is basically just wanting to love somebody in a normal way is basically something that's ridiculed and can bring you bullying. It's not good for your self-esteem development. It's not good for your confidence development. And I basically had a very, very troubled development in my confidence, and I basically became an anxious wreck, really. And so that was really difficult to experience. And not only was I going through that, I was also then dealing with being LGBT, but being LGBT as an intersectional person. Basically, being intersectional means that you have different aspects of your identity which are a minority. So I was dealing with being gay and being Indian and being Muslim at the same time. So let's start with being Indian, okay, because there's a lot of tea about to be spilled about these things. With being Indian, there's no positive conversation at all about any form of relationships, any form of heterosexual relationships, let alone homosexual relationships. There was no LGBT representation within the South Asian community whatsoever. It was a taboo topic. It was brushed under the rug. So there's that absence of inclusivity there. Basically, complete erasure of people like me, which was difficult to fathom. And then, on top of that, I was fed this narrative from a young age, not maliciously, obviously not maliciously at all, but it's just something that is embedded within our culture, to essentially recycle a narrative that we have, this age-old narrative, that boys and girls must achieve a level of success in their life to maintain the reputations of their families and therefore their positions within communities and their ability to be a part of a community. And those success levels were determined on A, your ability to get a job, a good job, and B, your ability and achieving a heterosexual marriage by your mid-20s mainly. So therefore, I was living within my family knowing that at some point I was essentially going to disappoint them. The older I got, the closer I was going to get to the reality of me having to let them know that I wasn't going to marry a woman, that I wasn't the son that they thought they had. And that was devastating to me because I was essentially going to bring shame to the family, and I was essentially going to play a part in destroying their reputation within the community and their ability to show face. This is something that teenage me, who should have only been dealing with stupid things like did my Instagram photos get enough likes, or am I going to get good GCSE results, having to deal with this pressure, right, of knowing that every day is a day closer to me possibly disappointing my parents and ruining their lives. And that was a burden I really felt at that time. So there was that problem of being from the South Asian part of my identity, but then also I come from a Muslim background. And let's be real, all the Muslim people watching this will know that we are fed this black and white stance that you're either gay and you're not Muslim, or you're Muslim and you're not gay. So basically there was no ability to be synonymous between the two. That was basically the black and white stance that there was regarding that. There was no debate about it. And I was essentially told from the wider community and from the things that I read that Allah doesn't accept gay people and that they are to be punished by death. There's no place for them in that community. If, like I said, if you were gay, then you basically weren't a Muslim, right? And that is what people kept telling me. I was told that I would go to hell. I was told that my existence would be essentially an existence of sin for the rest of my life. And I wouldn't be accepted by God, I wouldn't be accepted by my family, and I wouldn't be accepted by the wider community. Now imagine these three parts of my identity. At the time, school and my wider community there, and the South Asian community and my family and the Muslim community were all essentially teaching me from an early age that fundamentally who I was wasn't an acceptable thing at all. That I had no place to go and that I just couldn't be who I was. Now, can you imagine how it must have felt for a child who knows he's gay from the age of 8 years old to learn that as he got older and had to deal with that burden that I was going to essentially disappoint my parents, I was going to disappoint all of my friends, I was going to disappoint God, and therefore I had no place. It really took its toll on my mental health because I had essentially no self-esteem at that point, because I was like, well, This is something that I haven't chose. This is something that I'm just am, and I've got no control over. And so what do I do with that? Where do I go? What do I turn to? Right? If I enter a marriage where I'm marrying a woman, I'm essentially going to be ruining her life. I'm going to be lying to her for the rest of my life. If I have children with this person, I'm going to be ruining their lives, essentially, because I'll be making them believe that their parents are in love when essentially it would be a fake relationship. And everything would be a lie. And what kind of existence was that I was going to enter if I did? And I was thinking about all these things, and it led me to essentially go further and further and further and deeply, deeply, deeply into the closet. And I did not want to come out, and I never wanted to share to anybody that I'm gay. And now I'm not the only one that's going to be going through this. If you're watching this and you're going through this, please stick and listen, because I came to a few realizations which helped me come out of the closet. Those realizations were the key things that allowed me to build a confidence within myself to eventually come out. The first realization that I came to was regarding my South Asian identity. I realized that actually the reason that people around me weren't tolerant and weren't accepting of LGBT people and people like me, and the reason that there was no conversation, was because there was no representation. Nobody was actively starting the discussion on a wider scale in order to get people to realize that there are LGBT people within them. Nobody was actively coming out within my family. Nobody was actively coming out within my group of friends to show people that LGBT people exist and this is what we are going through, because of things that they passively and casually said without knowing the impacts of what that would do to somebody else. I then realized that the conversation is all it takes for people's attitudes to change, and I'm going to be brave enough to do that. It's not something that comes easy to everybody, but because I was so passionate about knowing that there were so many people who are South Asian, who are hiding their identities, who are married, and who are in relationships that I possibly could have entered, and are living the life of lie that I really didn't want to have, I wanted to make that change, because this isn't something that I wanted for my life either. So I wanted to start that conversation. And then there were some key realizations about my religion. So as I said, in Islam, it is pretty much black and white, that you can't be gay and you can't be Muslim. And this is a narrative and opinion, heavy emphasis on the word opinion, that was fed to me from such an early age. As I got older, I realized that this is basically a learned opinion from people that they've essentially gathered from being taught. It's a learnt behavior from homophobic people, from their parents before them. So it isn't essentially true. All it takes is a quick Google to realize that there's so many opposing arguments to the existence of homosexuality within Islam, to support the existence of homosexuality in Islam, and to allow the two things to be synonymous and allow people to realize that you can be gay Muslim. But these people, the majority of people who are straight and were spewing this nonsense to impressionable LGBT young people like me, were essentially saying an opinion that they've learned because they think that that's what gets them accepted within their own community, because if they thought any different, that would impact negatively upon them. So they are no different of a Muslim than you are. They are no closer to God than you are. They all learn from the same book, and they learn things from their parents. Your interpretation of Islam can't be deemed any less wrong than theirs. The Imam is no different from you. The Imam is a person who has his own opinions and has his own prejudices, and is basically giving that information to the wider community. He hasn't met God and he doesn't know the answers. I realised that I was essentially going to mosque from when I was a child. I was reading namaz, I was keeping my fasts, and I was doing everything that a good Muslim boy is supposed to do. But yet I was still gay. I tried to pray the gay away, but yet I was still gay. I was trying to look for the answers from God, but yet the answer that I was being given is to be satisfied with who He's made me to be. So I knew that if I was born a Muslim and I was born gay, then surely, and I'm going to places of worship, and I'm living my life as a Muslim person and as a gay person and as an Indian person, my existence is enough to be the affirmation to people that you can be synonymous between all these three parts of my identity. Your existence is enough to confirm that you can be gay in Indian, you can be gay Muslim, you can be gay in whatever ethnicity, you can be gay in whatever religion that you are. And it was these key realizations that then gave me the confidence to essentially come out of the closet from there on. And now coming out of the closet was a whole different experience, and that's a whole different story about how I told different members of my family, because that's a whole saga within itself. But I do want to leave with this key point. The world only a fraction of time ago, however long it is, I can't do quick math, but the majority of the world using religious text to essentially condemn and treat a whole race unequally. So there was a time in the world where people used religion to justify that these people had to be marginalized. Now imagine 100 years from now, people will be really laughing at the time of the people living now, that they were using religion to justify the marginalization of the LGBT community. So your coming out will essentially put you on the right side of history. It will show people that you were defiant and you were able to understand that your existence and your coming out is essential to normalize it, because there is so much power in numbers and there is so much power in representation and visibility, which is one of the reasons why I'm doing this video, because visibility is key, and sharing these stories and sharing these realizations and sharing these experiences is what will allow more people within our community, the Indian community, the entire South Asian community, whatever ethnic community you come from, your religious community, to come out and realize that living their life of truth is much better than living a life of a lie. Whoa, did I not tell you that that was going to get deep? Well, it did. Hopefully, if you're gay and you're LGBT, you resonated with a few things that I said, and that gave you the inspiration and confidence to become more accepting of yourself and come out the closet. If you're straight and you watch that, hopefully you learn what not to say, what not to do, and how to become a better ally. And if you're gay and already out the closet and you're basically just watching it to relive your traumatic past, then hopefully I didn't make you cry too much. If you like that video, hit the subscribe button, because I'll be making more content for Sam's Outlook on this channel, which will be coming out soon. I've got a lot planned. And leave a comment as well if you have anything to add to what I had to say, any further advice, because the more we talk about it, the better it will be. I'll be leaving some links below as well in the description box to my Instagram at Sam's Outlook, because you don't want to miss out on what goes on over there. And there'll be some links to some other media outlets and articles that I've been very fortunate to be a part of, where I share my story further. So I'll be making a part 2 of my coming out story. So I'll see you guys over there.